Episode 13 is here. This is Pop Kannon. I'm Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Brian.
So, guys, what are we talking about today?
Well, very similar to our last episode, which you may or may not have listened to, where we discussed the series Altered Carbon.
Just the first episode, though, right?
The very first episode. Jordan, among the four of us, is the only one who has not watched any of Game of Thrones. So we decided to continue that concept forward a little bit and have a 3-on-1 handicap match where Jordan discusses what he likes and didn't like about Game of Thrones Episode 1, and we implore him to fucking finally watch it already.
Now you might,
Yeah, Jordan, Jesus.
Now you might be thinking to yourself, how is it possible that there are people in our society who have not watched Game of Thrones, but I can say they are out there and they are freaks. Jordan, you are one. You are not one of them now that you've seen the first episode. So congratulations.
That's true. I've watched the first episode twice. The second time around was a little bit better because I had a little more idea of what's going on. So I guess right off the top, there's a lot of world building in this episode.
Oh man.
Which I feel like pilot TV series, they kind of have to do that because they're launching you into the deep end here, and this is the perfect example of it. We talked about it a little bit with Altered Carbon, where they dumped you into the full-on sci-fi, whereas here with Game of Thrones, they kind of do the same thing.
And the title sequence is one of the few times where there is literal world building right there.
The title sequence is one of the coolest things in television.
Oh yeah.
Where it just is always awesome, and as we know, but Jordan does not, as episodes and seasons progress, it updates.
Oh.
The map updates.
It's also one of the few shows that I will always watch the opening theme.
Yes.
Instead of trying to skip through it, because the song's amazing. It always looks cool.
Yes.
And you're just you get all pumped up for violence and boobs.
Yeah, there's many different variations that people have sung and posted videos of the opening title sequence. So it's definitely always worth singing one of your favorites, whether it be Game of fucking Thrones, or Wiener, 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 Wiener.
I forgot about that.
The Stern Show has a ba 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 booey ba ba booey.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
That's good. So yeah, Jordan. What do you? So like, right? How did you like the cold open? We'll go with that. The very cold open, if you will.
Jordan, can you add a rim shot sound effect after that?
It was okay. It started off well enough, you know. You see the people coming through the side of the wall, venturing out into the very wintry winter that winter's not actually there, but winter's there.
Well, winter's always in the north.
But not winter.
Right.
Okay, so like where
this
the
segment
wall
brought to you by Sam Adams Winter Lager.
So where the wall is, it's further north than Winterfell?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I needed clarification on, because they didn't really establish that.
Much further north than where Winterfell is, and then beyond the wall, there is vast amounts of land as well.
North.
Okay.
Yeah, Winterfell is like Detroit, and the wall is like
The Canadian border.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think my largest problem with the cold open is the editing of it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think that was I'm starting to think that was intentional in order to disorient people on what's going on. I just didn't like it, the editing. Just of that scene. The rest of the editing throughout the episode is great.
I absolutely agree with you that the editing was on purpose to disorient you. You're supposed to feel lost in the woods with the two surviving members of the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't believe I just blanked on that for a second. They're completely. They have no idea where they're going. They're completely lost after having seen the knight. He's one of the few knights in the Night's Watch get beheaded by the White Walkers. So
Yeah.
And another thing with that sequence that I kind of found troubling, and I don't know if they touch upon this later or what, but they had the body parts like laid out in a circle almost in like a logo, and then when they return to that spot, it's gone, like nothing's there, but there's no sign of blood or anything, and I was just a little confused.
And that's completely understandable, and that's what you're supposed to be.
Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if that was like touched upon that they just hired a cleaning service to come in and tidy up a little bit.
Just brought in a snowmobile and just blew snow over.
Just pumped up some fake snow. We're good to go.
But it's very...
tracks covered. Let's roll out.
But it's very confusing.
Yes.
Because of the fact that, like, why were they laid out in that position in the first place, hoping for someone to find them? Or...
Jordan, were you confused and let's go like, what the fuck is this? Or were you still intrigued by what was happening?
I was intrigued the first time I watched it, and then the second time that I watched it, since I haven't proceeded to watch anything else from the series, now I'm more confused. Because that was the only time we touched on the White Walkers.
Yes.
Within the pilot
episode. The shape returns.
Okay.
And is utilized when White Walkers are talked about for a time.
Okay.
Without spoiling anything for you further, it's hard to,
No, well, for sure, yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's not really spoiling anything to say that we still don't know exactly. You know,
Right.
What's I'm assuming with this last season, it's assumed that we're going to get some big answers, of which that is included.
Right.
Okay.
And just real quick, just to give you kind of an idea. So, like with Winterfell and the North that they refer to, like, you know, that Ned Stark is Warden of the North. The North is just always cold, but winter has not come yet.
Right.
That's why they keep saying winter is coming.
The seasons on this planet, I guess if you want to call it that, they last for years.
It doesn't winter last like 20 years or something like that, or 30 years?
In the past of it, it lasted for, I think, 1,000 years.
Yeah, I think it's always varied slightly, pending what's happening, I guess. You know, climate change or whatever.
Basically, there are generations of people that only know winter.
Right. And reverse to that, people that have only ever lived in summer.
Right.
And winter is always brutal, as it is in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Yes.
But just imagine that for years.
Literal hell.
Yeah.
There you go.
Literal hell.
Or heaven.
But that's the implication.
The implication.
Anyway. So once you got past the past that cold open, how did you like the rest of it, Jordan?
I enjoyed it. I really did. I like stuff where it makes you think, and I feel like they did a good job setting up enough to keep me intrigued and make me want to watch another episode, at least.
I would love if you watched another episode.
I mean, we'll see. I'm planning on it. I just don't know.
Yes.
I usually give everything 3 episodes, and if I'm not entirely hooked,
you're gonna be fucking sunk into this by 3 episodes.
Okay, cards on the table. We've been lobbying for Jordan to watch this for a while, because Andrew, Rob, and I are all massive Game of Thrones fans. Jordan, had you, prior to watching this episode, had you already planned on continuing to watch, or were you really basing your want to watch more on this episode?
I think I would have watched, like, had we not recorded for this, and I feel like I would have eventually watched the show.
But now you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Ground level. I think, see, it's weird because it's decent enough to make me go back for more, but I'm not hooked at this point from the first episode.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Like
there's a lot.
I didn't finish the episode going, okay, I need to watch the next one right now.
Right. Especially if you're not into fantasy,
Right.
and what becomes in certain spots outright sci-fi almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, but I like the sci-fi element. Little not that big on the
Yeah, fantasy I understand is tough, and also the language that they're using to sell the fantasy element of it for some people is tough. Like I will like outright admit that I binged the first 2 seasons in 3 days the first time I watched it.
Jesus.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't. It was to get ready. It was to prepare to watch the launch of season 3 live, and that's where I've been watching ever since, live. But I did not retain almost anything in that time span, other than little guy, dragon woman,
Wolf family. Like,
that was the essential. And for me, honestly, it's probably easier, unless you're sitting there with a fucking notebook. It's probably easier to not try to retain anybody's name, because as the episodes go further, who's important really kind of shakes out.
yeah. It's funny
because there's a lot of fucking people in this first season, and we're coming up on the 8th and final season now, and there are decidedly less fucking people.
Yeah.
And a lot of decidedly different people.
Yeah. Because the great thing, and I think the pull of this for Jordan from episode 1 and to watch the series in its entirety is going to be the character development. Because Jordan is going to shit himself with the writing capabilities of the people involved in this show.
Okay. And I mean, you guys have been telling me this for years now.
Yeah, literally years.
But that's good to know that there's like a continuity there.
Oh man, yeah, and it's in some spots it's pretty fucking tight, because the entire show is launched at the death of a man named John Arryn, who was the hand of the king in King's Landing, where the throne is for the king, because that's where he's landed.
Great. Awesome.
Go on.
George R. R. Martin is proud of you.
He didn't want to try to get a fastball by on that one.
Jesus Christ.
Slow roller.
Now wait,
Always
what
was
will
something
King's
of the
Landing be?
right.
Well, that's where the king landed.
So that's the beginning of the show. The impetus of the show is the reason this entire journey begins is because John Arryn has died, and go. Like, that's the whole point of it. The Hand of the King is essentially, it's not necessarily like, if you're trying to equate it to something, it's not necessarily a vice president.
Basically,
Maybe.
Yeah, I think
I just
the closest approximation we can make.
I just kind of pictured it more like his right hand man.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
literally, he's my number one guy.
Right. So the king gets to go off and do what he wants to do, and basically the Hand of the King in some instances runs the whole damn show. Not Rob Van Dam.
Drink and whore himself to an early grave.
Jordan, what did you think of the characters just in this first episode?
From the ones that were prominently featured, I thought their motivations were kind of laid out very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Except for Sansa, because she was an annoying little bitch.
Absolutely what they were going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that you got that means you nailed it.
Yeah.
I was very confused at the beginning what Jon Snow's whole deal was.
Yes.
The first time that I watched it, it had to be explained to me that he was like the bastard child, but the reason his last name is different is because people in that
Different
area
regions,
have different last names for the bastard children, because there's just a bunch of bastards just running around.
Yes.
Yes.
That's throughout all of Westeros.
Yeah. The
For different regions, there are different standardized bastard last names.
Okay.
So the north is Snow.
Is it because it snows there sometimes?
Yes.
I believe that is true. No, they're all really big fans of Coke.
In the southernmost region, it's the last name is Sands.
right.
Right, because it's hotter there. That kind of thing.
Okay.
It's just one of those things that they don't spend a lot of time on, but they just keep moving, and once you discover that there are more people whose last name are Snow, you go, oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
And then you'll see that there are the last name of Sand and last name of, what is it, River, right?
Rivers, I think.
Like Rivers.
Yeah.
So
Quarterback of the San Diego Chargers is a bastard.
None of them are bastards. None of his 20 fucking kids. Anyway.
I did enjoy Bran.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Arya. I can't even tell you the other two Stark people's names.
They're not necessarily featured, so that's fine.
But yeah, no, yeah. Rickon and Rob don't get much play in this episode.
Where they show up, where Arya shows up, her brother Bran, from further distance and hits Bullseye like it was nothing.
Yep. So great.
Foreshadowing.
So I just want to say real quick. So I watched this. So I watched this last night, and the previous time that I watched that was a year and a half ago, I guess. And I had just forgotten how much foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
in
yeah.
this one episode at the beginning of it all, there was so much foreshadowing. I'm not going to say specific things, but Jordan, you will definitely get payoffs for a lot of things from this episode.
Yeah, I think almost everything in this episode has at least reached some sort of payoff in 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Almost everything has reached a payoff in some way over the course of the specific first season, and then further as the characters expand and the show kind of Rubik's cubes different people together.
There's a lot just in this first season, but yeah, there's a lot later on too.
Yeah.
That's
so Jordan,
cool.
you said you enjoyed Bran, right?
Yeah.
What if I told you
Yeah.
that they I forget which season was it? Was it 4 or 5?
What?
Where they completely they backburnered Bran so hard that he was not featured in the season at all.
I believe
I think it was season 5.
I think it was season 5 as well.
Season 5, Bran takes a seat on the bench, and he is not in the season at all. And then when they come back for season 6, he returns.
Is it a different actor?
No, it's the same actor. And you learn why he was gone for so long.
And I don't remember. I've read the books up to A Dance with Dragons. I don't remember exactly, but I have a feeling that in the books he kind of was a little missing.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I think so.
So they completely backburner him for a whole season. Does that make you angry in any way?
I mean, not right now, only because I watched one episode.
Okay.
You know, like I haven't had time to like really get to know the characters and spend time with them. But that's at least good that they explain his absence.
Yeah, in a certain way. But what if I told you that it may or may not be related to some sort of time travel situation?
God damn it, Rob.
I need to pique his
What?
interest, and I know that time
Hold on,
travel's gonna get him.
hold on. What?
Yes.
He's currently taking his pants off as he's saying what?
Yeah.
No, they're off already. I heard time travel, and then my pants instantly like slid off.
Right off.
So that's like super interesting, right?
Yeah, dude, it's a complete mindfuck. I'm just letting you know.
Well, that's all time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope I like the other 2 episodes after this because
You really want to get to that time travel.
Gotta get to the time travel stuff.
And I'm not saying that it's actual time. I'm saying it's potential time travel. Like, I don't know how to
Is
explain
it in the realm of
Yes,
definitely
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can take what happens in that way, and I don't think anybody would fault you for it, because that's still how I take it.
Spoiler alert, Jordan, you're watching all of the episodes.
Yeah.
But he knew that already. I saw it in a vision.
I just also want to say, like, one, it's such a fucking great first episode. I felt, Jordan, like you felt, like it's much like the first episode of Altered Carbon that we talked about. It throws you deep in the weeds. It
Yeah.
really does. It just drops you right in it, and you're kind of flailing about. But the performances are so good, and the writing is so good, in my opinion, that it just you just get caught up in it. By the time that I watched it, because I didn't see it when it was on HBO when it first came out. I had to get it on Blu-ray, and so I watched it maybe a year and a half after it had already premiered. And I watched it, and by the time they got to close to the end of the episode, Ned and Catelyn are in bed, and Maester Luwin comes in and delivers the message from Kat's sister. And it's just like, oh, the Lannisters are evil. We know that, and now Ned has to go and protect the king. It's like shit just got even more real than it did at the very beginning when there are monsters with ice swords.
Right.
And really, that's the kickoff of the
Right.
series.
The greatest thing, and it's similar to the pull of what Walking Dead started with, we'll put it that way, is that there are literal monsters in this world, but there are, like, a lot of the people are just fucking monsters too.
Fear the dead, fight the living.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess the same could be said about what's his name? Viserys?
Yeah, her brother?
Yes.
Are you talking about Daenerys' brother?
Targaryen.
Yes.
What's his name? Viserys.
I forgot what an annoying twat he was.
Yeah.
So, like, blonde Loki.
Yeah, he's a complete fuckwad.
Twat.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't evident from everything he did and said to Daenerys in this episode.
Yeah, he's a twat for sure.
See, I'm excited, and I love this about, like, new television series. I'm excited to see the characters become more dimensional and really expand upon why they do what they do.
Yeah.
So that's why,
Yeah,
like,
and
TV
this
shows.
show, honestly, they don't. There's not many characters that don't get a little bit more depth. At least at a certain point, a lot of them get depth for that reason, really.
See, I love TV. This is why I love TV.
Yeah.
So if they tried to do this, because for this property, this IP was in limbo for a while, in different forms, and George R. R. Martin, the author of the books, always was meeting with people who were pitching him what they wanted to do. Because the books, I believe, started releasing in the early 90s. Is that correct? Yeah.
Wow.
Early to mid.
Early to mid 90s. And he dropped, like, the first 4, like, quick, and then just fell asleep at the wheel. And then people were like, hey, dude, we want more of this. And then it became a TV show, and now he can't write fast enough, really. So the show was in limbo. Not the show, but the property was in limbo for a while. George R. R. Martin always had the final. He always had the final say on whether or not he would release the rights for somebody to do it. And he had said, and I'd read an interview with the showrunners of this iteration of it, that they got the show because they had read the books a million times, and he asked them a series of questions during their interview, and there's one specific question that he asked them that if they answered it incorrectly, he did not give them the rights. So the question George R. R. Martin asked was, who is Jon Snow's mother? And according to, let me see, according to the showrunners, D.B. Weiss had said, he asked us, who is Jon Snow's mother? We had discussed it before. and we gave a shocking answer. At that point, George didn't actually say whether or not we were right or wrong, but his smile was his tell. We knew we had passed the Wonka test at that point.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That's cool. I mean, they haven't, from the first episode alone, they haven't given a pull one way or the other.
Right.
Or even pointed you in a direction, so...
because in order for it to be a bastard, obviously his father has custody of him, however you want to word that. So the mother is just whoever.
Question mark?
Right. But we know through this episode, Ned is a very noble person. So it's interesting to suggest that he has an affair.
Yes. The most noble, honorable man.
Yes.
Because everyone, if anything, everyone calls him noble and honest. Everyone.
That's what he is known as. Like, that he is... all right, I don't want to...
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. It's cool.
I'm just trying not to dive into any territory. Yeah.
This is
So Jordan, let's talk about incest.
Oh boy. I was not expecting that, but then after it happened, I went, well, that makes perfect sense.
Nobody's expecting incest.
Wait, are you saying you guys don't fuck your sisters?
So what's her name? I don't even know her name. The queen?
So,
Cersei.
Cersei.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cersei. Okay.
Wait, Jordan,
so-
did you really not know that?
No, he texted me after he watched it the first time. The incest was a complete swerve for him.
I didn't see it coming.
Neither did I, but
First time I watched
Well, no, Jamie was behind her. She didn't see it coming either.
Bap,
and that's part of my thing. I've managed to avoid almost all of the spoilers for this show.
that's impressive.
There's a couple things that I've come to find out.
I think I broke Brian.
It's fine. Let's keep going.
No, I was just gonna say there's a few things that I've come to learn over the course of the years just from talking or from context clues. But for the most part, I'm a clean slate going in.
Oh, congratulations, man. It's hard to avoid that kind of stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, after how many years? 7 years now? 8 years?
But I think it's because he doesn't follow or like any of the stuff about the show on social media, so you're able to insulate yourself from it in that way.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
And it's just from people that I know that watch it.
Yeah.
And I've seen episodes before because like I'd be with Rob and Amanda,
Yep.
and they'd be like, "It's Sunday night, we gotta watch Game of
Yeah,
Thrones."
I was
And I'm
not
just like, "Oh."
watching it around you. Sorry.
I'm like, all right,
Or I've sent you clips.
yeah,
So the one clip I sent Jordan specifically was the Hound versus Brienne of Tarth.
Oh, God.
I was like, you don't need any context for how fucking brutal this is. Watch this shit. And I also sent him the Viper versus the Mountain.
Oh, God. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So you know that whole... Okay, well, good. Now you won't have your heart...
Ripped out of your chest. Yeah, but he doesn't know the context of it. He just saw the fights. He doesn't know what
Yeah.
led up to them or what the fallout or what the meaning of any of it was.
and that's the stuff that I don't mind. I've also at one of my jobs, I had to work on Game of Thrones. So like I've seen stuff from that, but like also once again, there's no context
And it's disconnected.
as to what's happening. So what's going on with Khal Drago and Daenerys?
So
they're
Well, that'll be an arranged marriage.
Yes. Oh man, he is the king, for lack of a better term, of the Dothraki.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Dothraki, yeah.
And they are a wild bunch of horseback riding, desert dwelling lunatic barbarians.
It's best to think of them.
Essentially a nomadic tribe.
Yeah, nomads.
Even
Even
better.
better.
It's best to think of them as desert barbarian Vikings.
Yeah.
okay.
And her brother Viserys.
He has the army that her brother needs.
Right, because
correct?
he believes that by betrothing his sister to this behemoth of a man, that will get him on the Iron Throne over in Westeros, because they're in a different continent. They're on Essos.
They're in Atlantis.
I was just going to say, this Aquaman.
Right. Right. Well, no, the Dothraki don't go in water. That's the thing. That's why they're over in that other continent.
See, none of that was like explained, so I was like, "How far away are they?"
So this is where paying attention to the opening title sequence pays off, because it showed Westeros, it showed the different locations in Westeros, and then it went to the east.
Across the narrow sea.
Sea is that whole other continent. So with each episode, it shows you where things are taking place. So things took place in Winterfell, King's Landing, and then over in Pentos.
Right.
Okay, so and that's a thing with going back to being dumped into the center of all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that gets explained and revealed over the course of the first season as to what the actual situation is. But her brother's intention, as he mentions to her, he's just like, you're going to make this fucking barbarian happy, and I'm going to use him to take back the Iron Throne for our family.
Right, but I'm speaking specifically for the locations and the opening credits. Like, watching that opening sequence, it was cool to look at, but like I didn't know what I was looking at. So now that I know, okay, well, this is the locations of where the episode's taking place, I could pay a little bit more attention. It kind of gives you an idea
of how far away they are and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also people throughout the seasons have complained about the phenomenon of jetpacking, which is when somebody has to go somewhere and then we go away from that character. When we come back to that character, they're just there.
I do think, though, it was Max Landis who
might have been
set up at, so people were complaining. I think I'm not going to spoil anything with you, Jordan, but people were complaining in the most recent season that someone went from somewhere to somewhere very quickly. But Max Landis laid out, it's like Westeros is not like America and South America joined. Westeros is like maybe the size of California.
Yeah. He said it's better to think of it as the size of California to get a grasp on the time of travel.
It's a pretty small continent, and I guess maybe it's just a really small planet. I don't know, but yeah, it's not a hugely large place. But they're traveling by boat, by horse and wagon, and then other things later on. But yeah, so it's not. They said it took a month to get from King's Landing up to Winterfell. I would think that if you had to travel by horse and you didn't do it very quickly because it was the entire King's traveling group, that it probably would take a month to go from, San Diego all the way up to,
Sacramento or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. I could see that taking a while.
And now for Geography on California, Andrew. It's like, oh, well, you get on the 405 and you...
Oh, God.
I caught myself saying the 405, the 5, the 134, and I'm like, what have I become?
You're becoming the Californians.
Californication, brother.
Dude. You go down there and hop on the 405. Well, no, if you just want to go down to Anaheim, you just hop on the 5 and take it all the way down.
Holy shit, he's got the accent.
Yeah.
Why don't you get off at exit 14 and get out of my life, Jevin?
Dude, it's so weird. You'll just be driving along the street, and then there's just suddenly a ramp to get onto the fucking highway.
And very much like in Westeros.
Yeah.
I thought the direwolf scene was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like that like moose looking thing that was killed, was that killed by the direwolf?
Yeah, they were. The idea is that they were in a fight.
Oh,
because
okay.
When they walk,
so that was an antler that
when
he
they walk
out.
Upon the elk or whatever the fuck it was,
the stag.
He was an elk.
Yeah. He says, looks like a mountain lion, and then they were like, no, there's no mountain lion big enough to do that. Like, so the idea is that it was thrashed and destroyed, and then the wolf was also had the fucking massive antler stuck in it.
And that stag had huge fucking antlers, so it was not a small creature.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, do you discover that it's a dire wolf, and then he's going to get rid of the fucking puppies, and then he's like, no, why don't we give them out to the children?
Fucking Theon.
Yeah, dude.
asshole.
Hey,
Oh yeah, so Theon is Ned Stark's ward.
Okay, similar to a Batman and Robin relationship.
No.
Only less caring.
not even a little bit.
I'm picturing Theon as Robin.
Ned Stark Batman.
Batman.
Just if you want to think of it that way, just imagine if Batman was like, I hate having you around, all right? That is more the situation.
Oh, fuck.
So he's like Jason Todd.
Yeah.
But see, Batman likes all of his Robins. You can't say that. If Batman hated his Robin, then it would be like, yes, that's the situation.
No way that Theon Greyjoy would ever become the Arkham Knight.
Oh
Brian?
God.
Holy inside jokes, Batman. So yeah, so Theon, so that was when I had first watched it. I was hella confused by who they were in relation to one another.
Yeah.
I was like, is he related to them? Is he not related to them? He's like, I take
that was-
orders from your father, and I was like, so he's not one of them.
Well, I mean, when Robert Baratheon, when they show up, they show the line of Stark children.
Yeah.
They even show Jon hanging back with Theon.
Yep.
Yeah, but Robert, that's great that you mentioned that, because I had to have everyone's relationship kind of explained to me,
Yeah.
because it wasn't really well laid out within the episode.
In the first
itself.
episode, I think they're just more showing you all of these people are together here, and all of those other people are together there, and then everything shakes out the way it does as it progresses. But you know where everybody starts together. And that's more the point, is that they're a part of a group together, whether or not they infight and argue and bullshit with one another, that's all fine. But know that that group, including Theon, is together.
Okay. Cool. And I guess that's a good thing that they didn't really go into that too much, because then it would be like Exposition City.
Yeah, yeah. And
there was a little bit of that, because like when like the King's group all showed up,
yeah.
you had Arya asking questions like, "That's Jaime Lannister,"
Right,
all
and
that
then
stuff.
somebody leans down and goes, Jaime Lannister is the
Yeah.
That, so the show, I get caught flack. Would you call it caught flack?
Yeah.
For what was termed sex position, where there is a sex scene happening in the background or the foreground, and meanwhile there is a bunch of exposition being laid out for you as that's happening.
Okay. So that's what I get to look forward to.
Yeah, there's at least, I know for a fact, there's at least one scene, the Littlefinger scene.
Yeah, you haven't met him yet. You will.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's he's great.
Even looking at what's his name, the Imp.
Yes.
Is what they kept calling him. Like during that scene where he's getting like blown,
Sex
and then
position.
she's just like,
Yes.
all of a sudden, sex position.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tyrion. That's his name.
Yeah. Yeah. That there's no more fitting introduction to Tyrion than that.
Yeah.
Hey, how weird is it seeing him with blonde hair again?
Yeah. It slowly changes over the course of the series.
Okay.
And short
It
hair.
just threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short hair, too, yeah.
By the end of it, he's got a fucking beard. He's all grizzled out. He's seen some shit. Like at this point in the show,
Yeah, yes.
yeah. At this point in the show, he's never really gotten his hands dirty in any situation. He's always lived off of his last name, utilized the family money, and just fucked however many whores that he wanted to, and drank himself to oblivion. Like that's his whole thing at the outset.
He lives like a king.
He does,
Yeah.
and then he's forced to change how he acts in certain ways as it progresses, because he's got to kind of grow up. He's got to nut up.
Back to what you were saying about the exposition, Jordan. That's one of the things I liked about the fact that it just threw you in, is that you look at something like Lord of the Rings, and I love Lord of the Rings, but the first movie, they had, there was a whole 10-minute intro, and they didn't put an intro except for like, the thing with the White Walkers beyond the wall with the Men of the Night's Watch. That's a little bit of an intro, but it's not like a whole backstory. They would have had to have had a whole episode of backstory to get you to where you would know where who everyone was, what their relationships and everything.
Yeah, it would have been like having to read a child a book, but it would have been the entire episode.
Right.
Well, that's a credit to the writers of the first episode, because they were able to get across the necessary stuff, and I'm sure that they expand upon more going forward.
Yes, everything.
Because it wasn't too much. It was enough to dip your toe in, so to speak.
Because like in the books, I have not read the books myself. I've always had an issue reading that type of verbiage and that type of dialogue. Even back in high school when it was Shakespeare, like that kind of old English verbosity.
It's dense because you're translating as you're reading.
Right, and I know that I'm not going to get anything out of that, so I've never even attempted it. But from people that I know that have read it, Amanda's read the first 3 or 4 books. I believe she's read all 4 of the first books. And I mean, fucking credit to her for doing that. But I just feel like I would have to sit there with a notebook and a pen and be like, so this person is connected to this person. But I'd rather see it visually to go, oh, okay, this is easy now.
I think now that you've seen all the current episodes, all the episodes up to the current, the season that's about to premiere, I think since you've seen all of them, I think you probably would be better served now reading the book. Right.
And that's what I've always said, is that if I were ever going to read them, it would be after the show, not concurrent with or trying to keep up with.
I think you might enjoy the books. I don't know. I mean, you might obviously give that first one a try. You might not know. You might be able to get past the language barrier there.
Yeah. I don't know English well.
Just quick, going back to Daenerys.
Mm-hmm. Let's.
For the wedding, she was gifted dragon eggs?
Yes.
What's now I missed, I guess it kind of just went over my head, but like, what did they say about the eggs? They were like, they're pretty to look at or something.
Right.
They're from the Shadowlands beyond Ashai. So we don't get much of what that means, except that like it's a faraway place.
Okay.
And like, we're not to everyone's knowledge in universe, dragons have been long gone, and there's been no such thing as dragons for thousands of years. So
okay.
The idea that she was gifted dragon eggs is essentially just ceremonial.
To be sorry, Rob, just real quick. To be perfectly clear, dragons aren't that far removed. There were like dragons up to like a couple hundred years ago, but they were like dragons at one point. Dragons at one point within the universe were massive things.
It was like feral cats in America now. They were everywhere.
but they were also
getting in everybody's garbage.
In size they were enormous too. And then as the Targaryens, who were kings for a long time, as their lineage grew thin, the dragons started to shrink and they eventually went extinct.
Because there was that one scene where Daenerys said, like, I don't want to be his bride. I don't want to be his queen, blah, blah, blah. And her brother, like, looked at her and was just like, do you want the dragon to come out? And I was like, is that a threat? Like, what is he...
Yeah, that's his... So the Targaryen king was always referred to as the dragon. So he's referring to himself as the dragon. And it's like, do you want my temper
okay.
To come out?
Because he's a scary boy.
Yeah. He's
a total fucking schmuck. So he's basically threatening his sister to like kick the shit out of her if she doesn't do what the fuck he says.
Yeah.
He's selling her off.
Yeah, he even said it. I don't even care 40,000 Dothraki soldiers like had their way with you,
Yeah.
I would do it.
And their horses.
And their horses.
Yeah.
Which is like the most horrible fucking
Yeah.
thing to say to somebody.
Your sister, no less. On her wedding day.
The scene when she's getting into the
The
water
tub?
and like, my lady, it's too hot, and she just kind of gets in. What did you think of that?
So this is a thing where I've come to learn a thing or two about a thing or two with the show. Isn't she like fireproof or something?
Maybe?
Is she?
Okay.
Could be.
So that was interesting.
I think the obviously
The way that
the play on that sequence is that she no sells the hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the way that it was intended and that it came across initially, had I not known these facts, was like, oh, she just doesn't care. She's like suicidal or some shit.
Right.
She's trying to shelter her emotions because it's very similar to the end. Khal Drogo takes her to this very nice beach. They have a very romantic moment. He looks her dead in the eye and says no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's where she just kind of shuts down.
Yeah, she has to kind of do that sometimes.
Yeah.
It is just real quick about him saying, like, do you want the dragon to come out? In the books, it is actually stated outright that he beats her.
Oh, okay.
Well, she's also 13.
In the book, she's like very, very young.
Yeah, I heard like the ages are different from the books to the TV shows.
Yeah, thank God. Because you feel a lot weirder about it.
The book
They
ages
think
are
they-
super, super bad.
Yeah,
Well, in the book, isn't John like 12?
something like that.
Something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you feel a lot better about watching the show, knowing that their ages are like 18. Everything's 18 at least.
Yeah.
I think Daenerys starts off at 12 in the book. Actually, I don't think she's 13. Sansa, I think, is 13, like in the show and in the book. This is the same. But yeah.
For the most part, they age everybody up.
Yeah.
For the most part, or the young characters anyway.
Just to kind of explain away some of the
Awkwardness.
more adult things that they do.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'd also like to state that Robert Baratheon looks like Bray Wyatt, and I can't unsee it.
You know who he looks like to me? Fred Flintstone, but not that first one.
Or really, does Bray Wyatt look like Robert Baratheon?
That's true.
Yeah. Or do both of them look like Fred Flintstone?
Wait. Oh my God.
You're
He
welcome.
was the second Fred Flintstone?
You're welcome.
No.
Yeah?
Yeah, just take that beard away. He was fucking Fred
Daddy.
Flintstone.
Oh my God. It's this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I didn't even notice.
There's so many actors that wind up going through the show that you're like, I know him from that thing.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. But the best
And
part is that Game of Thrones now becomes that thing where you see that actor somewhere else and you go, I know that actor from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we were watching Overlord.
Yep. That
So
was great.
yeah, Sean.
That's cool.
Sean Bean's so fucking great in that.
Yeah, so Jordan,
Yeah.
who was your favorite character in the first episode?
It's got to be Ned Stark. It's got to be Sean Bean.
Perfect.
Ned Starks, yo.
Because he got the most screen time and the most
He did.
fleshed out story
He absolutely does. Yes.
for the first episode. So, I mean, the more that we see, I'm sure my opinion will change.
He's the star of the show. You're going to love him.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
No,
I
he is.
Sean Bean, man.
mean, because I'm not that in the dark.
Whatever do you mean, Jordan?
Whatever. It's fine.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure he'll be great. Can't wait to see where he winds up by season 8.
Yeah, I really hope he gets on the Iron Throne. That's who I'm pulling for.
God damn it. You're all the worst.
So, a hammer.
I'm very happy that you watched this finally. I'm very excited to see how deep you get into it and what you think of it going forward. Very excited.
How do you feel about high fantasy, Jordan? Are you more? You're more of like a sci-fi guy, right?
I'm more sci-fi than like medieval stuff.
I will say that the like magic and like quote unquote fantasy elements kind of ebb and flow. It's more like medieval, dark medieval story. There are a lot of magical elements, but it's not like they're mashing it in your face every single episode like they would with something like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. See, and that's not even the feel that I got from the first episode.
Great. That's good.
Like there are magical things in the world, but it's not like I'm going to use my firecraft to start my, you know what I mean? Like my magic wand to start the fires or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how into it I get. I hope I like it, because with everything that I watch, I hope I like it.
I think you're gonna like it.
I think so too. It's widely considered one of the best shows on TV, if not the best show on TV, and it's not just because of tits and dragons. So there's
although that helps.
Right.
I'm not saying I don't like those things. I'm saying that the writing, it's the writing and the performances are what have made the show so great.
Yeah, and I mean you see it from the first episode on, but like the fucking level of acting is unparalleled.
Yeah, I didn't see a bad performance.
And
in the first
honestly,
episode.
Short of maybe an extra or a small speaking role here and there for a character that doesn't matter, everybody fucking kills it. I think they all showed up and knew, like, we've got something here, and you're really gonna be like, fuck, these guys they're killing it. They're killing it.
Okay, I'm excited to see some characters grow and change, and because I love when shows are able to do that. When fucking hate someone at first,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden you're loving them.
The best is oh my god, there's so many characters that swap that turn.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I fucking hate this guy, and then season 2 starts and you're like, holy shit, he's a sympathetic character now. And then he turns again. It's evil.
Tell people to watch to learn how to do that.
Yeah. The fucking the writing is fucking immaculate.
What I can't wait is to have discussions about how Game of Thrones has some of the most evil characters ever written, and I just can't wait for you to start experiencing that. So great.
It is a dark story, but you can kind of get gleams of that from the get-go.
You've gotten your toe dipped into it already.
Yeah.
Into the blood.
The blood pool.
All right. Well, I think that's our show on the pilot episode of Game of Thrones.
To coincide with the new season of Game of Thrones.
The final season of Game of Thrones.
Not a moment too late to get into it, Jordan.
At first I was going to wait until it ended and then just binge it, but...
Well, shit, at least you didn't have to deal with the pain of waiting 2 years.
Yeah.
It's true.
God.
Now, I was just saying, and we are planning on covering this next season of Game of Thrones, so look forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And our next episode, we will be covering Shazam.
All right, so for Pop Cannon, I'm Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Brian.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew, for buttoning that up.
No problem. Watch out. I was going to say something Game of Thrones related, but I'm really hungry, and I just... All right, bye.
For the watch.
When it comes to the game of pop cannons, you play or you die. Or, sorry, you win or you die. Damn it.
For the watch.
All right, guys, let's just start the episode over.
Are you still one of the people that haven't seen Game of Thrones yet? Did we gush enough about it to make you want to watch more? As an update for you, Jordan has watched through episode 3 and decided to continue forth. Praise the 7! If you've already watched all the way through Game of Thrones, was this a neat little trip down memory lane for you? Let us know. We want to hear from you. You can find us across all the social medias by searching Pop Kannon Pod. Just type that in and give us a like, follow, or subscribe. Don't forget the K, okay? As you're well aware, podcast listener, we are available on all major podcast platforms. It's quick and easy to find us and subscribe. And if these nuggets of goodness in your ear aren't enough to satiate your desire to hear our opinions on stuff, you can follow us individually. I, Robert, can be found on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball. Jordan is on Twitter and Instagram at JL24FPS. Andrew is on Twitter at flavored_red and Instagram at Android Skeleton. And we followed Brian already. We caught him stealing a flagon of ale. He was down in the keep awaiting his sentence. We followed him to a vast log in the middle of a great field. He wouldn't apologize for his crime because he says he was hungry. We sentenced him to death. Of course I swung the sword that took his head. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. If you would take a man's life, you owe it to him to look into his eyes and hear his final words. And if you cannot bear to do that, then perhaps the man does not deserve to die. And then we followed Brian's head down the hill and onto the dewy rocks that make up the shore of the meadow. What is dead may never die. Thanks for listening. Keep an eye out for our next episode, which will be all about the DC film Shazam!